People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
好像快到了。
我会为你付出一切的。这是我们新的开始。
We long to be loved, to understand and to be understood. And guidance can help you to truly connect with people. Guidance is powered by a simple yet powerful engine. Truth.
从此以后毫无隐瞒，就算发现了对方的秘密，也无条件的原谅彼此。
如果是别人都不知道的事情呢？
我们的朋友看到你和别的女人暧昧。
没有。
这样的话，几个月之内，他就可以改变你的行为。
几小时。
如果你说了，他很可能会离开你。
你还爱他吗？
和你在一起我很快乐。
如果你活在谎言里，就没人能了解或者爱真实的你。
Hey folks, welcome to a special episode of The Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. On this episode, I'm talking with Neysan Sobhani, the director and co-writer of the film Guidance. Guidance is one of my favorite types of sci-fi. It is an exploration of a high concept and how it would affect the real world. Really cool stuff. Highly recommended. Available now through streaming platforms. Check it out, and I hope you enjoy the interview. So obviously I want to talk to you about Guidance, but do you mind if you tell me a little bit as far as how you got into film and filmmaking?
Filmmaking's always been a passion, but I didn't come to it straight away. So when we moved to China over a decade ago, I had the opportunity to start making some short films. I got to say the best kind of film school I went is the one I never went to, because I didn't know that you're not supposed to just pick up a camera and start shooting and doing stuff. I didn't know you're supposed to have, you're a line producer and you're supposed to have your catering truck and you're supposed to have your dollies and all that. I said, man, we got a story. I got to let this story out and here's a DP, good friend of mine. Let's start shooting. So we just started shooting. I was very lucky to have a great DP next to me who made everything look amazing. And we are still working to this day together. So we started shooting some short films and, one thing led to another. There was some success there. And it kind of became viral in China and then, started picking up. I noticed it was transcending cultures as well. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. I guess that's what it's supposed to do. So, yeah, I would say I consider myself first and foremost a storyteller, then a filmmaker, and then a writer, and then a director.
So what has been your experience like making films in China?
It's the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. I wouldn't trade it. I don't want to get into a psychotherapy session here, but it's extremely challenging as a non-native Chinese, to do that. Well, to get into film anyway, people say, you got to be crazy to get into film. It's just doesn't make sense most of the time. When you start out, you're not doing it for profit. I don't know. You're just doing it because you have to release something within you. And so it's really just crazy thing to do. So, and to do it then in a kind of a foreign country, a language that's not my native language, although I did learn Chinese and I can get by and I can communicate and so on. But, I can't, I don't have advanced, super high level Chinese. And, I don't look Chinese, right? Now, there's a lot of foreign directors, they call them ABCs over there, American born Chinese, who obviously are foreigners, but they're Chinese. They look Chinese and they speak the language far better than I do. And they obviously have a lot of challenges as well. At the same time, it was an advantage also to be kind of Middle Eastern diaspora filmmaker. I felt like a guest that was honored there, that was, taken care of. And in that sense, it was wonderful. And the Chinese are really an incredible group of people. So yeah, extreme challenges, but extreme rewards as well.
How did Guidance come about?
I started writing what I, at that time, was considered, I think to this day, I still consider this like, this is the ultimate film I want to make. And I was writing this script with all these ideas that were running through my head. And one of the elements of this, only one of the small elements of this particular hard sci-fi screenplay I'd written, I felt, what, this deserved its own attention. And there was too much happening in this story anyway. Let's remove this element and put it in its own, let's treat it, on its own merits and explore it because it deserves it. And so that was the concept of omniscient entity or thing that is within you, that would guide you, in the hopes of enlightening you. And also, it's a defensive thing and it's also an offensive thing, offensive mechanism as well. And I thought, how would people deal with that? So it came from another story. And then I just took it out and about 5 years ago started developing it.
I really love that it's such a big story, but you handle it with just a few characters. It's kind of that core sci-fi, almost end of the world type of thing where you have the three main characters and the way that they interact with each other. I really appreciate that.
Look, when you're constrained by budget, you still want to be able to tell your story. And so you try to find ways of still doing it. I think that was really a blessing because it allowed us to experiment. To me, really, this is an experimental film. I don't know if people quite pick up on that, but it's very experimental in many ways. We did rehearse the hell out of it when we were beforehand because, we had very limited time, at the locations. And so we spent months and months with the actors working on delivery and everything, right? But at the same time, we let a lot of room for collaboration, experimentation with all the key members of the group. So yeah, having a core group of people, as you say, contained drama, not too many locations, and 3 characters really helped us flesh things out.
Tell me about those locations because it looks beautiful. And I think that the buildings play such a large part of it.
Yeah, they're almost like they're almost like a character in the story, aren't they? They play just as you say, a very important role. Again, this is, they talk about, as much as I love sci-fi, I also really enjoy mysticism. I feel they're almost 2 sides of the same coin, And so even the filmmaking process and securing locations, all that, to me was a very mystical, magical thing that happened. So we were very fortunate, but almost I felt we were destined that we were able to secure some of these locations, and they were all in Beijing. Each of them was within maybe 45 minutes of my place. And so one was in the downtown area of Beijing. Another one was 45 minutes to the north in the mountains. And most people don't even realize it. They think a lot of the locals who watch the film go, oh, where is this in Italy? Which village is this? And I'm like, no, this is actually in your backyard. They didn't know such a thing really existed. And the home, we were very lucky. It's one of those things, a friend of a friend. And then, I had a chat and he'd never met me. And I said, look, we're trying to do something really special here, experimental. We're trying to push art into science fiction, into something, et cetera, for the market. And had a big long chat. And in the end, he goes, okay, you know what? You can use my home. And in fact, that home was the home that, from what he told me, I don't know, but that was where, when Kill Bill was shooting a portion of their scenes in China, I believe, the producer and Tarantino stayed in that home. That's a little fun fact.
Tell me more about your cast, because obviously so much relies on your main three people.
Our female lead, Sunjia, incredible, so dedicated to what she did. I mean, we spent almost half a year, 5 months, I would say, just every day going through the character and everything that's, and a lot of stuff was left on the cutting room floor that was really incredible stuff, but we just had to kill your darlings, as they say. She's incredibly talented. She was she played a significant role in Zhang Yimou's film Flowers of War with Christian Bale, which at the time was, I think, touted as one of the first kind of Chinese / English kind of co-production, something, major like that. And so she played a role in that. She's unrecognizable. If you go look at her, you won't recognize her in that movie compared to this movie. She had to gain quite a lot of weight for that one, Flowers of War. She looks totally different here. And then the two male leads are actually foreign-born Chinese. One is from Australia, Harry, and the other one, Harry Song, and then Francesco Chen is Italian, actually. So again, very fortunate just through casting calls.
So I imagine there's got to be a wide variety of languages being spoken on set. How are you handling, because I know, Ni He Shua Po Ton Moi, but are you still having to rely on a translator for more of the subtleties?
Yeah, but you know what? We'd worked out quite a lot of the stuff, like I said, in rehearsals in the months leading up to it. And I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with the lead actress, especially because, she really carries the film. She's almost in every scene. And so if we could get her kind of core character down and everything else gets anchored, that's the anchor. Everything else gets hooked to that. We spent a lot of time, speaking in Chinese directly with each other before shooting ever started. So when the time came to shoot, if I had to communicate something, I would do it if I could in Chinese. Pretty much, I would say half the time if something was a little bit more complicated or nuanced. But, at that point, we were so used to working together that I didn't even have to I'd give a look, you give a look, and be like, okay, yeah. We'd kind of transcended language to a certain extent at that point. Yeah, it was very beautiful. Of course, the other two leads spoke perfect English, so that wasn't too much of an issue. Yeah.
I absolutely loved the graphic design of the guidance system once it was ingested and used. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that came about and who was your designer on that?
Again, the whole thing with indie films like this, well, actually, I don't know. I assume, maybe I'm wrong, but it's really a collaborative effort. And so there was a lot of decisions to be made. But even before you get to the kind of the look of it, you have to get to the rationale and the logic behind it. So we had to create an entire sci-fi. You would appreciate this. You know this. The thing is, building a new world is not easy. And so the rationale behind what's happening, before you even put pen to paper, why is it happening? But before that, the app, how does the app work? How does the whole thing, and when does it light up? Do you see something? Does it say something? When it says something, what does it say? How does it say it? And what languages are you seeing it? Is it bilingual? Will it look weird to the audience if bilingual? We went down the bilingual route, but all these things had to come into play even before you came to designing the way, kind of it looked like. But the guidance system, forget about the NIS system, the nano integrative system, which is, your quantum computing, AI, and nanotechnology together. And how's that actually working? But how the app works, we had to treat it and talk to designers, and how is this going to work? When does it say something? When does it alert you when someone is being deceitful? Is it only a deceit? Does it give you a percentage? Does it, what levels are there? How many levels are there? We spent, oh my God, for 2 years that we're still having debates and arguments with some of my co-writers if you talk to them now, they'll still say, no, there are no such thing as levels. It's just one thing. And I'm like, no, there is levels. And, and so it was extremely difficult, but we came to a stage where we figured out how the thing would work. Like we actually designed such thing as if it existed. And then after that actually became very easy. Once you know that, then it's like, yeah, you know what? It's not going to constantly talk at you. It will kind of give you a little bit of a little halo over someone, or just, and you could also calibrate that if you want. But, we're not dealing with just two, three people talking to each other. We're dealing with an audience looking at people talking to each other. So how's that going to look, right? So we have to make it as non-intrusive as possible, as, as fluid and simple as possible, but extreme complexity in that kind of simplicity of design. So this is what we kind of ended up with. Yeah. Also for the sake of the audience to help them.
Yeah, it's one thing to be the user of the app. It's another to be an observer of the user of the app.
Yeah. And so we put ourselves in the shoes of the other characters, looking at it as if we're them. And we're hoping the audience will suspend belief and go, okay, that's kind of what they're seeing. But also I didn't want I didn't want the sci-fi elements to overtake what is really a human drama. That's very much. And so we thought very long and hard. In fact, up until the editing process, I had maybe 10, 15 more shots where this thing was lighting up saying truth. And I thought, it doesn't make sense. Let's just have it as it only alerts you if someone is lying, which only will happen a few times in the film. So yeah, because people catch on, they're like, well, if I'm going to get away with it, might as well say the truth, Did I rewrite that you released this on Singles Day last year? That's right. Yeah. The distributor in China they took a risk. I mean, look, I got to hand to them. This type of film has not come out in China before this at all. So they're really just trying to figure out how this is going to work. So yeah, they decided to Singles Day. Did that work or not? I don't know. I mean, they actually had on the posters, do not take your significant other watch this film. You may break up, And actually, I think some people took that to heart. Like people came to me and said, I'm actually concerned. I'm not going to go watch it with my husband or wife or boyfriend, or with my significant other. I'm not going to do that because look at it. It's so, well, that's kind of a joke. Which I think, I don't know if your audience knows, but it's a celebration of being single. It's the opposite of Valentine's Day. November 11th. So 1111.
And now it's coming out in the States. I believe it's being released June 17th this year.
That's right. Not just States, but I think worldwide. We're going most territories internationally.
Where is the best place to keep up with you and your work?
For everything I've said, I'm actually very... I don't have much of a footprint online. That's the weird thing about me. I'm kind of like a ghost, but being in China kind of took me in that direction because none of those applications are available. And so that's not an excuse, but it is an excuse for me not to get on them. And plus I know myself, they would take way too much of my time and I couldn't write. Honestly, it's not healthy. So maybe the easiest thing, guidancefilm.com is where news of this project is going on. And other than that, I guess, if you just punch my name into Google, there'll be other things that will pop up. But I feel like I should let my projects and work speak for themselves. So when a new project comes out, then, people will see it. Or maybe someone will finally convince me to get on one of the social media sites and I'll do that.
Are you already working on your next one?
I am, yeah. We're been working for a couple of years now on a series based on the same concept of the film. So the series takes place in the city, whereas the film takes place in the countryside. So then we get to see the entire city and how it works. And we get to see, though, in those same 3 to 5 days, how the city and the population is dealing with the introduction of the NIS and guidance. And we follow a family as they deal with that. So we see how politicians, actors, car salesmen, insurance salesmen, police officers, what happens when we all have guidance, So we kind of use that as an entry point into some very interesting stories.
Neysan, thank you so much for your time. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.